What did Jesus say about marriage and divorce? The law of Moses seemingly was okay with divorce, as it mentions it in Deuteronomy chapter 24, verses 1 to 4. In that passage, it talks about a man giving his wife a certificate of divorce as she had become displeasing to him, and or as he had found out something indecent about her. Now, I should just explain that although this passage has the man initiating divorce, Jewish culture also allowed the woman to initiate divorce as well. So it seemed to the Jews that divorce was okay if it was in response to your partner becoming displeasing and or you finding something indecent about them. Now, if that statement raises more questions in your mind than it answers, well, you're not alone. As the Jews who tried to apply Moses' law also debated about what it meant. I mean, what things could you reasonably justify as being displeasing enough to proceed with a divorce? And what could you reasonably claim was indecent? Well, in Jesus' day, there were two main interpretations or schools of thought. The most popular interpretation by Jewish people was that of Rabbi Hillel, or the Hillel school, and by the magic of modern social media, I have him here. How are you, Rabbi Hillel?
Very well, thank you, and I'm glad you're discussing this subject. My view, and you're correct in saying that I was the most common view, I suppose in your day you'd call me a successful influencer. Something that I see that from the number of your followers, you are not.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Anyway, my interpretation is that, for example, a husband can divorce his wife for virtually any and every reason that displeases him.
Like what?
Well, it could include minor inconveniences, such as if she spoilt a meal, like burning the toast, or simply if the husband finds another woman more attractive.
Wow, that seems a bit open to, well, anything.
Well, you should talk. I understand that in your culture, you don't even have to have a reason at all. But I think that my interpretation sets practical outcomes as a priority over forced domestic cohabitation. I mean, what is the sense in compelling a deeply unhappy or discordant couple to stay together? It could create more harm and hostility within the household. No, God is all about love and peace. Well, Hillel's views were disputed by those who followed Rabbi Shammai. And again, he joins us here. Well, thank you for having me in order to correct my colleagues' misinformation.
So it seems you took a more conservative viewpoint about divorce.
No, a more literal interpretation of the Deuteronomy text. The ideas presented that being displeasing and indecent must be interpreted as a single legal concept. So my interpretation acknowledges that the emphasis is rightly on something indecent happening, therefore ruling out petty grievances. In other words, divorce is only acceptable on the basis of sexual immorality.
Can you explain that a bit further?
So, the philosophy that I put forward is that God aims to uphold marriage as a permanent, lifelong covenant. I mean, allowing men to dissolve a marriage over minor daily annoyances undermines the stability of the family unit and devalues women. No, my interpretation prevents impulsive divorces and protects the structure of the household.
Well, thank you for your explanation. But in this video, we're also interested in what another rabbi, Jesus, thought about marriage and divorce. Now, I haven't Rabbi Jesus with us, but I have managed to get one of his disciples here. Matthew, welcome to the pod.
Whoa, this guy's a tax collector, isn't he? I don't think we can be here any longer. We could be caused to be unclean.
Nah, it's all right, guys. I'm reformed. I've been changed. In fact, I'm now an author, and a pretty successful one too. My book, named Matthew's Good News, is part of a compilation which is now a bestseller called the Bible. And you mention in your bestseller that Jesus was in fact questioned by the Pharisees about his approach to marriage and divorce. Yes, that is right. Let me read to you that part of my book. It's in chapter 19. Here we go. Some Pharisees came to him to test him. They asked, "Is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for any and every reason?" You see, they used Hillel's exact words.
That's right. My exact words exactly.
"Haven't you read," he replied, "that at the beginning the Creator made them male and female and said, 'For this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate.'" So Jesus doesn't refer to Deuteronomy chapter 24 at all. No, he referred us straight back to the creation story in the book of Genesis. He told us that God's initial intention was that male and female were to become one flesh, describing it as a divine, sacred, permanent union, designed from creation to be an unbreakable bond. He in fact elevated marriage past the temporary human contracts into a sacred covenant. But if that is the case, what's going on in Deuteronomy chapter 24? Well, that's exactly what the Pharisees asked. I'll keep reading from my book. "Why then," they asked, "did Moses command that a man give his wife a certificate of a divorce and send her away?" Jesus replied, "Moses permitted you to divorce your wives because your hearts were hard, but it was not this way from the beginning. I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife except for sexual immorality and marries another woman commits adultery." So it was never God's intention then that we should divorce? No, but Moses' law gave permission because our hearts were hard. But what does that mean? Well, if you've been in a relationship breakup, you won't need me to describe to you what hardness of heart looks like. People stop caring for each other. They follow their own desires. They can't empathise with the other's point of view. They can't recognise their own destructive actions. Their hearts become hardened towards the other person. I see. But Jesus seems to allow divorce in the situation where someone has sex with someone else. Yes, as well as the death of a partner, because that breaks the covenant. In other situations, there is still the opportunity to restore the relationship if people allow God to soften their hearts and allow forgiveness. So you were there, Matthew. How did people react to Jesus' viewpoint? I'll read to you from my book what our initial reaction was. The disciples said to him, "If this is the situation between a husband and wife, it is better not to marry." You see, we liked Hillel's interpretation. You could get trapped with some wife who turned out real bad. At the time, it seemed like we'd be better off not even having sex at all. Well, that obviously didn't happen. Well, my mate Paul...
Oh, please don't bring him up. He was a student of my grandson Gamaliel, and yes, he ended up following the Jesus sect. What a waste. He had such good potential.
The one and the same. He says that human marriage is a living symbol of Jesus' self-sacrificial love for his bride, the church. In fact, marriage will cease and be eclipsed as we enter a relationship with God himself. A relationship of which marriage is a kind of signpost pointing us to how things will be in the resurrection. So is marriage then something that all Jesus' followers should aspire to?
Oh, no, not necessarily. When we were talking after he had been speaking with the Pharisees, he told us that some people would actually choose to not get married, to not have sex, to live like a eunuch for the sake of the kingdom of God. He told us that although marriage is a gift, so is a celibate single life dedicated to the kingdom of heaven.
Well, thank you, Matthew, Rabbi Hillel, and Rabbi Shammai for meeting with me. So in summary, Jesus considers marriage a lifelong sacred contract. He was critical of the divorce practices of the day that allowed it to be easily dissolved. He said that it could be dissolved by either the death of the partner or if one of the partners committed adultery. He recognised that divorce was allowed in the scriptures due to our hardness of heart, but stressed that this was not in accordance with God's initial intention for us. So I've still got some questions. What does the Bible really mean by the two becoming one? When Jesus talks about being married and becoming one, is he talking about undergoing a religious ceremony or about having sex? What happens if prior to becoming a follower of Jesus, you've had a number of sexual partners? Can followers of Jesus divorce for something like domestic violence? Can someone who is divorced serve within the church? What is God's view of the single celibate person? I hope to consider these questions in further videos, but would be interested in your views. I recognise that when I speak about marriage and divorce and celibacy, I'm talking about very personal and sensitive topics. I hope my presentation did not make light of your situation, but rather gave you an initial introduction in how Jesus reframed the debate about our relationships. Of course, the subject is much bigger than I can cover in just a few short minutes. So please, if you have any questions, please send them to me in the comments below. And if you would be so kind as to like and subscribe, that would be a great encouragement. Thanks for watching and God bless.